Hi everyone, I'm Alessandro, CPO and co-founder of Refinea, and now I'll show you how to use our platform in order to increase your visibility in the AI answers. So after you have set up your account by just inputting your email address, you will then find this screen. Here you have the current projects, the domains, the brands you are currently analyzing. But assuming you started from scratch, the first thing you have to do is add a new website. Here it's very simple. You just input the domain, in this case, let's go with Prada, and hit add website. Now, what the system is doing is scraping the whole internet, the whole web, in order to identify all the relevant information to create a company profile, identify the products that it's selling, but also the current buyer personas that company is targeting. And here we go. After the scraping, we have the company profile of Prada. We can check if all the informations are the one that we want Refinea to then analyze, and then start with the analysis. So let's give a quick look. We have the brand name, the business model, which looks precise, also the aliases, because it is useful inside the AI answers to catch all the possible aliases with which the AI can name our brand. Then we see if the target industries and the geographies are the right one. These are very, very useful in order to understand better which are the prompts, the questions that the buyer personas of your company must be analyzed. So the more precise are this step, the more precise will be the final analysis. Same applies here for the products and services. Here you can be pretty general. There's no need to insert every specific item you sell, but just an overall list of the main products and services you are selling can really shape then the quality of the analysis. Before concluding, we can input the name of the competitors that we really want to analyze. Refinea will analyze all competitors in the AI answers, but if there is any competitor you just want to track a little bit better, in this way you will see later in the dashboard a specific filtering for these competitors when seeing the competitive analysis. Now we can save and send, and now it will take about 30 minutes to do the first initial overall analysis, but after this one they will happen automatically and you will not have to wait anymore, and you will always have the analysis up to date. And here we are. After the analysis is complete, we have the initial dashboard. Here we can see, first of all, how in the prompts and in the questions that specifically target Prada's buyer personas, the brand is ranked in the first position. And it is mentioned at least about 80% of the times inside the prompt, which is a very great result. Also, here you have a geo score, which is a proprietary score, but we'll get there in a moment. You can also see the share of voice of Prada with respect to all the main competitors. And here you have a more detailed overview about which model mentions more often Prada. Here you have the brand sentiments. And finally, you have a more detailed competitor analysis, meaning that the analysis you have here in the dashboard about Prada will be present for each competitor. So you can see for Gucci, which is the mention rate per prompt, the geo score, and the sentiments clusters, the main sentiments that describe Gucci. And this applies for all competitors. Now, before going to the geo score, I want to show you the type of prompts that are analyzed. For example, you have prompts that focuses the accessories, or prompts that look for very old luxury fashion houses. And each of these prompts have this IIS score, which is a proprietary score that tries to identify the popularity and the relevance of a certain prompt, meaning that it looks how much people look at it. It also takes into account how relevant is for your brand and for the conversion of the clients to your brand. And so, keeping into account this ISS score intent importance score, and the average rank, the brand mention per prompt, the share of voice, and the brand sentiment, we can come up in the end with the GEO score, which analyzes your overall position in this new channel of acquisition, which is the one of the AI answers. Now, you can see detailed each persona that Refinea is analyzing. That's our main differentiator. With Refinea, you can see how every buyer persona of your company, when interacting with the AI, which answers is receiving. For example, you can see the established professional, which is a general consumer that lives in Italy, for example, and has these jobs to be done, these pain points, these hesitation and risks, is a very well served buyer persona for Prada. Indeed, it has a very high rank, a very high geo score, mentioned all the times in all the models. It has a great sentiment and so on. But at the same time, we can see, for example, that a buyer persona that still lives in Italy, but his passions are the perfumes and the fragrances. He's looking for very high quality luxury perfumes, isn't actually very served by Prada inside the AI answers. For example, Perplexity or Gemini very rarely suggest Prada perfumes to this buyer persona. So this is an indicator that to improve Prada's position in AI answers, the company should focus more on these particular buyer personas because are the ones that are the least served. In this tab, in the prompts tab, you can see detailed for each buyer persona all the prompts that were analyzed. For example, you can see that for the established professional we've seen before, we have 14 prompts analyzed. Each of that has a 100% mention rate. Indeed, for example, to this prompt, to this question, all the three models, and you can here see the answer, are actually mentioning Prada and the answer. However, if we go checking for another buyer persona, for example, the one targeting the luxury fragrances, well, here we can see that the mention rate is just 45%. And for example, to this prompt, we have the mention for ChatGPT. Here we have Prada, but not for Gemini or for Perplexity, which are mentioning other luxury firms for luxury perfumes, but not Prada. You can also look at the prompt by filtering by search volume, not just by your persona, and this is ranking them by the so-called ISS score, the one we have seen before, and you can also filter by the prompts where you are mentioned, where you are not mentioned, in all the models or for a specific model. Finally, before going in the optimization part, we can see that Refinea gives you also a very detailed overview of all the sources that the models looked at when answering the questions and the prompts. For example, we can see that Prada is not actually between the main sources that the AI models go searching online when answering the prompts. However, we can see other important websites like YouTube or Italian luxury groups. But now, what can Prada do in order to increase its visibility in the AI answers? That's simple. With Refinea, in the Improve section, you can start refining your whole digital footprint in order to improve your positioning. You can create a new content which can be informational, meaning that this article for the blogs that you are creating is aiming to explain a particular product or the history of your company, or you can produce a comparative article which mentions also other brands, explains each brand why it's strong, why it's not strong, but positions Prada as the best overall brand. This is particularly effective to trick the AI models in order to give to your content more authority because you seem very rational in citing many possible choices, but catches the fact that you mention yourself as the best one. So let's go with the comparative article. We can continue. We can select for which buyer persona we want to create this article, and of course, we will go for the fragrances buyer persona. We can see again which are its jobs to be done, pain points, and hesitations. And we can even select up to 5 prompts that we want to really target specifically. I'm really interested, for example, in this one that it's explicitly asking for great perfumes that you can buy from a luxury brand in Italy. Or this one, which is particularly emotional. Finally, we can also select the main sources to scrape again and to really understand how they managed to be cited by the AI in order to understand the trick they used, the composition they used, and combine it with our best practices in order to create the best possible article to help you being cited by AI models. And here we go. Now it is generating the content. It will take a couple of minutes, but I have already one here ready for you. And once the content is generated, you can look at the first overview of it. So you have the H1, the paragraphs, and so on. But you also have other important things for the website, like all the metadata you must add that are very appealing to the AI, and an overview of the headlines paragraph used. Finally, here you can see all the parameters you've chosen to create this article. For example, which is the topic, which are the prompts you selected and you want to target, and the sources that Refinea took inspiration when recreating your article. As you can see, this article is covering all the main brands of the perfume industry, but is pushing more Prada as the best one. And finally, you can see here a button to copy the format. You can copy the article also in HTML, so it's ready to paste it on your blog, or you can export it as a PDF or a TXT or a Word in order to send it to your colleague and do any changes you prefer. Last but not least, here you have an export button with which you can download a PDF that contains the whole analysis we've seen about your brand that you can easily share with your colleague. That was it. Hope you liked this walkthrough of Refinea and see you soon. Ciao!